is up, Bobcat Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bobcat Sports Talk. Michael Davis, Timothy Worrells here, ready to give you another 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so of nothing but Radford athletics and maybe a little bit extra tonight. Who knows? Whatever we feel like. Michael, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. It's technically late by our clock right now, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. It's busy time around my household, and it's busy time around yours. And we haven't had a lot of sports going on, so there was a pretty big break for us at Bobcat Sports Live. But a lot to come this week. We'll dive into that. But it's good. Holidays were good around here. I ate a few extra cookies for you, but yeah, I'm good. How's things going in the Worrells household?
Going great. Busy as always. And like you said, I mean, we've taken a few weeks off already. We've only, done 2 or 3 episodes of this, and we already took a few weeks off. But, hey, wasn't COVID related. It was all because of Christmas, New Year's, and spending it with the family. And like you said, Christmas was great. Unfortunately, hardly any Bobcat sports went on, so it was a perfect time for us to take a break from this stuff. But Bobcat sports starting to rev back up, and we're excited. But before we get into that, Michael, I see that hat that you're wearing. I know your Christmas break wasn't perfectly fine because, man, what an ending to that bowl game for Tennessee.
Yeah, it's tough. When you have to play the officials as well, you don't always get some wins. It was tough. We had a wedding we were in at that time, so I didn't actually get to be as frustrated as I could have been because I was watching it on my cell phone with like 50 other people kind of watching me watch it. So it was tough. But, man, when you score touchdowns and they just don't count them, it's tough. They said forward progress was called. Whatever. Whistle doesn't blow until after the ball's in the end zone. I understand by rule. As an official myself, I understand by rule.
You are a football official.
Right.
What is your thoughts?
So, by rule, the play ends itself, but I have never in my life blown a play dead, especially in the fourth quarter or overtime, which is what we were, on the end zone. Because we don't, on 4th and 1s, we do not, we don't call it dead when the quarterback's getting pushed. We let him get pushed all the way across the goal line or the first down marker. And when you play Giles, you don't blow the whistle and you let the play run out because who knows where the ball is.
Correct.
So when he's getting pushed and when he's pushing and he's laying on top of guys, no whistle, ball gets extended, whistle, and then they decide to call it dead. It's tough. But
it looked like he drug him across.
Well, like I said, we hadn't called impeding the runner in 20 years. Okay,
that's true. It used to be illegal, right?
It's technically by rule, it's still illegal.
But
it's not called. And
I just thought they made changes to it.
No,
you see it all the time. Quarterback sneaks. I mean, get 5 guys behind and just push them forward. It's impossible to stop nowadays.
You take the running back, you push him forward. So technically still against the rules.
But, hey, on a brighter note, Tennessee turned things around in 1 year and stole Tech's quarterback and made him shine in the SEC.
We appreciate all Tech's they couldn't succeed with Hendon Hooker. We gladly will take him, make him into a Heisman contender next year, win 9 or 10 games, compete for the East. Things are looking up. It's been a tough decade for the Volunteers, so I'll be happy if we can do something.
Well, hey, we're excited about a lot of things going on with this talk show. We even got a sponsor that could potentially be the sponsor of this talk show. He's been a long-term sponsor of Bobcat Sports Live. More details to come when we finally finalize some of those things. Hey, if you're listening right now, before we get into everything, all of our gibberish for the night, for the day, whenever you listen to this, if you have anything that you would like us to discuss, shoot us a message on our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and we'd love to discuss whatever you would have to be. If you're watching the video right now, you'll see some guest appearances by my dog Bennett, which he's kind of aggravating me right now. But anyways, we'll just keep pushing through. But hey, next week, our next episode, we have a special guest. Finally, we've been talking about it for a while. Now it's lined up. we have indoor track coach Jenna Ray that's going to be joining us here on Bobcat Sports Talk. And then the following week, looks like we'll be having the wrestling coach Dwayne Martin joining us. I'm excited. Like I was telling them, personally, I don't know much about those two sports, but I told them, hey, it's your opportunity. Come on here and advocate why Bobcat Nation should be investing more in these sports, and more excited about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. I know nothing about either sport, but what I do know is when kids are going to college, if they're a football player or a basketball player, most colleges expect their athletes in high school to be dual sport athletes.
Right.
And so I know if you're a football player, you can be wrestling in the off season. And if you're a football player or the baseball player, you can be running track. And a lot of these dominant football players in college are track stars, are wrestling stars. And it's a whole new world. I know as an official, a lot of the guys I do ref football with do wrestling as well. So, you know, I know a lot of guys do that, but I'd love to hear it. And I know Bobcats, Radford High School, all the people would love to know a little bit about wrestling. And that's what this is for. I mean, it started off as basketball, but this is Bobcat sports, and we're here to talk about all of it. So I'm super excited for those. And I'm going to take it as a sponge. I'm going to go in knowing nothing and then try to learn something. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me as well. And we'll continue trying to get Coach Rowland in here as well about swimming. I mean, that's something we just don't talk a lot about. But like you said, Michael, this is why we wanted to do it, to highlight. We can't listen, everyone. We cannot broadcast every game that's going on in a season. We typically choose some of the ones that most people are requesting us. We get requests for everything, but the biggest request for the sports throughout the year, obviously we started this station in basketball season for basketball, and it's kind of expanded from there. We're excited about it, but hopefully maybe we have more teams and more personnel on our staff, then we can expand out. But this talk show is to highlight everything from athletes to coaches and from all the sports. So, but, you know, Jenna Ray's coming on next week to talk about it. She did I did reach out to her tonight and say, hey, if you got anything for us to just to highlight a little bit, we would love to do that. And actually, they were in action. They had an indoor track meet down in Lynchburg. It was called the Liberty Premier Invitational. And Elliot Grayson doing his thing once again. He jumped a 6'4" high jump. Huh. How in the world can he do that? Obviously, he won, already qualified for the state championship meet in March.
Now, let me ask you a question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but is that like you're running, standing, and you're jumping over something, or is that you're jumping forward?
You're jumping. They got the bar. You got to arch the back. That's all I know. But
so my man jumped higher than me. I mean, he jumped over me, just standing still, basically.
Yeah. He can't touch any of that bar. 6'4".
I mean, that's impressive.
Very impressive. I mean, no wonder he had him at receiver in football season.
I got a box in the gym right now. I even got the medium size one, and I can barely do box jumps on that thing.
So box jumps with 8 inches for me, and I'm about to fall over it.
Yeah.
So, but no, really, Elliot's set the state record last year in the spring in the outdoor track. I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with, and I know a few schools are actually talking to him about coming to college to do high jumping. And so he's already in the record books. He's going to go down as one of the greatest high jumpers in Radford High School history. Proud of him. Already qualified for state in March. Pressure's off now. You can just get ready for March, right? I mean, they have an invitation coming up. Let me pull it up real quick. Another one, it's not this Friday like the schedule said. She said it's full, but the next one's January 29th back at Liberty. And not many schools have indoor tracks, but that's called the Bulldog Invitational. But if you're Elliot, I don't know. Maybe this is a question for Jenna next week. Does that one matter? I mean, or are you just preparing and going for state championship in March?
I mean, I'll give my opinion on it, even though it doesn't matter. You're definitely preparing for March. I mean, it does not matter what happens in the regular season. Yeah, you set the record right there, but you have to come. It's like when you're doing 1 rep maxes in the gym, when you got a competition coming up. It don't matter what you hit in practice. or in leading up to that meet. It's about what happens when we get to game time. And for them, the championship is game time. So you can hit all you want in practice or in the regular season, but it comes about on that day who's the best, and he's got to show up then. So he can only get better, I think. I don't know if that's how it works. I know in weightlifting you can progress and get better. I don't know if you can get better jumping high. I hope so.
Sure. He can go 6'5" next
I
time.
don't see why not.
Just keep, I mean, literally the sky's the limit for Elliot Grayson. But hey, March, he's in the state. And also last episode, if you remember, we had a few swimmers already qualifying for their state meet in March. So it doesn't matter if we're on a court, field, in the gym, out, wherever in the pool. Bobcat's doing it right again in the winter and already. But anyway, so yeah, indoor track. Tune in next week. We can't wait to spend a lot of time in our episode talking about indoor track with Coach Jenna Ray next week. So, hey, let's talk about wrestling. Dwayne Martin says he's excited about the wrestling. Wrestling team's been active. I don't know if you saw, Michael, but they're getting new wrestling mats. They've got new warm-up shirts. I mean, seems like there's a little bit of buzz going around for the wrestling team and the program in general.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting. I mean, from a wrestling standpoint, it seemed like that mat, what would they say, 20 years or something since they last had a brand new mat. I think Dwayne posted about it somewhere in that range, but I think it's super exciting. I think if these athletes are expected to compete at the highest level, we look at colleges and the facilities are getting better and better and better, and you have to have these things. I think it's amazing. You know, the coaches and the athletes are taking the effort and they're taking the time and they're putting in all the work. They should be rewarded. And this is exciting. I mean, it seems like from the outside looking in, every time they post about it, you know, they're getting new stuff and they're winning meets. I mean, I don't think I've seen him post them losing a meet this year. I was trying to pull that record up, but I think it's super exciting. I mean, they don't get enough highlights, so it's good for them to show out when they can.
Hey, this is Dwayne Martin's third year as third season as a head coach. This is what he says. My first season, I started with 4 wrestlers. Last year, we had 7 wrestlers. This year, we have 12. Hey, for a guy that's coming in as a school that wants a coach to build the program, Dwayne Martin's doing it. Going from 4 to 12 in just three seasons is remarkable. And he talked about a little bit about most of the success so far this year happening a lot in the upper class. And so, hey, building programs means you build numbers up, and that's what Dwayne Martin's doing. He's doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. You know, if you look at the basketball team, they got so many guys wanting to come out. They got to turn young men away. And so I can't wait for the time when Radford Wrestling is where Christiansburg is, when they're competing for championships and when they're having to say, hey, we got too many spots and too many players for the spots. So I'm excited for that. Like you said, you're right. It's incredible to see that progression over the last few years, and that's what they're doing. In fact, it looks like they've only wrestled twice this year, but they've dominated in their meets. They won the other day on the 5th, 48-18. And I'm not an expert on wrestling, but I know what 48-18 looks like, and that's a butt whooping. So
that's the only language that I can relate to, and that is a butt whooping in anything, right? So, I mean, unless you're playing golf, you're going for the lowest score, but come on, it's a butt whipping, like you said. And so, Coach Martin went on to say that they have a huge meet or wrestling match this week, right? And so they're hosting one on Thursday. So if you're listening, Bobcat fans, the opportunity to go out and watch these guys. He said it's at 6, and we're hosting a quad meet, which means 4 different teams are going to be in our main gym. Now, with the second mat, he said, now we get to, if you've been to a wrestling match in the last year or 2 or whenever, usually there's just one mat in the main gym, which they're finally using the main gym for these guys. Now in the main gym, there's 2 big mats that's going to be taking place in our gym this week. And listen to these guys. It's going to be Carroll County, Fort Chiswell, and Glenver. Now, because I know no Glenver fan is listening right now, I can say these things. I would love to see a Bobcat and a Highlander from Glenver on a wrestling mat wrestling with each other, and hopefully a Bobcat whips the crap out of them. Personally, we can't do it in basketball when we want to. We do it score-wise, but I'm talking about physical-wise. If I'm a Bobcat, I'm ready to get on the mat with Glenville Highlanders.
Yeah, you're absolutely. I mean, I would assume a lot of the young men who play football to some extent, especially the linemen, the big boys. If you're a
Charlie Davis,
I'm
right? Dawson
right,
Martin. These
right.
guys, yeah, exactly. Football players.
They're competing in the fall and then rolling over and competing in just a different sport. A few weeks later. In fact, I know you experienced this in high school as well, but my wife played 3 different sports in high school, and she competed against the same girls every single sport, every single year. It didn't matter what the sport was, whether it was volleyball, basketball, softball, same kids. So you learn to almost love competing against them, but hate them at every second in every sport. So it's awesome to see that kind of competition build up. But that's what happens in these small towns. You got all these sports, everyone's playing the same thing, and you know who the kids are. You respect them on one level, but you want to beat them on the other. So it's awesome to see. And I'm actually excited about them having both mats in there and being able to host big meets. And that's what we kind of talked about a few weeks ago. Radford High School needs to be where everyone wants to come, not just to compete, but I mean, when everyone gets to come and be at Radford High School and wrestle and compete, everyone wants to come play basketball against us.
Yep.
We should be the same way in wrestling in every sport, but everyone wants to be what we are. And so that's exciting for Dwayne to be that.
Personally, I don't know why we don't have a Christmas tournament in basketball, boys and girls. Why aren't we the hosts of some big time competitions? You look over at Floyd. We just came out of the Chance Harmon Classic. Brian Harmon does a superb classic right there, hosting that Floyd. Why can't we? Now that's for a great cause.
Great cause.
Now
and it started on a great cause, but
absolutely. It's ran well. It's very efficient. A lot of excitement. He gets big time names, big time matchups. I mean, putting Radford and Lord Botetourt. Floyd played at East Rockingham. Then you bring in. They do it well. Now Fort Chiswell, you asked Coach Cormany, and we're going to get into boys basketball here soon. But you just said we should be hosting more, like the track meet. The track has a big old meet in the spring. Forgot what it's called, but they have a huge one. I mean, an absolute massive track meet done here because we have one of the best stadiums in our level here in the Southwest Virginia. So I'm with you, Michael. Radford, let's go. Let's step it up and let's be the host of a lot of these exciting events.
Well, I mean, we should be. I mean, let's be honest, especially when we go to all these other tournaments and not especially the Floyd one. I looked at the schedule and we didn't get to make the trip to watch the game or anything, and we'll kind of dive into that a little bit, but they've set the schedule up where you have all these teams playing. Then you get to whoever Radford is playing, and then you start getting into teams with Division I athletes.
Yep.
So that's the respect that they give the Radford Bobcats. We should be hosting these tournaments. You could even schedule, I guarantee you that we could contact the Dedman Center, host there, and run a successful 2 to 3 day tournament or one massive tournament. You can play one game or a bunch of games, whatever, and host these kids. I mean, especially if you could work with the Dedman Center, which we have many times, and you got teams coming in and guys saying, you get to play at the university, and this is where you're going to be playing D1 next year anyway. That would be superb, and that would be spectacular. And then you could raise the money either for a good cause or for the high school. But
I there was a guy that was talking at the beginning of college basketball season this year. I heard it on Big Dog Sports Talk, and he was proposing that there should be a Commonwealth Clash at the beginning of college basketball season every year, every single year. Pick 2 or 3 venues, have one venue, and every school in Virginia competes against each other. And whether you rotate or it's a tournament. My question is, I was thinking about this the other day, why in the heck aren't we having like a New River Valley Clash? Why isn't Radford going against the Christiansburgs, the Blacksburgs, the Auburns? Why isn't the New River? I'm looking at my schedule in girls basketball. I'm looking at the boys' schedule in boys basketball, and we're just barely hitting all the schools in the area. I was talking to the Blacksburg coach the other night, and we were like, why in the heck aren't we on each other's schedule? We're 20 minutes away from each other, and it's good competition. Why aren't we? And that's what I told him. I said, every every New River Valley team should be playing against each other. And maybe that's something we host at the Dedmon Center at the beginning of the year where, we draw from a hat and we, whatever it is, whether it's one game, like you said, 2 or 3 games, or we play for a trophy. But I think we play for a trophy and make it interesting. There's a lot of good ideas, let's be honest, where we can get interest in sports back up. I mean, if the effort we put toward it,
Well, everything is, what you make it and what the effort put forward. But you're absolutely right. I mean, right now, when the way the districts are set up, we got to play schedule. We got to drive 2 hours to play somebody. We got to drive an hour and a half. And when you're on a bus, a 2-hour drive really is 3. So I don't know about you, but I would love to play all of these teams in the area. And I know some, in some things it would be a little harder to play, but I don't understand why we're not doing this more often. We're playing all these tournaments. I know Coach Cormany schedules a lot of tough opponents at the beginning of the season.
And has to, by the way.
He
has to. Many people, us saying that, didn't mean to cut you off. Many people won't play Coach Cormany. Bigger schools knowing that they're probably going to lose. I mean, that's detrimental to them in the playoff standing. So Cormany, it's tough for the boys to find teams.
Well, it's like in football, no sane athletic director is going to schedule a App State or a JMU or a school like that because they could mess around and come in there and beat their Division I, Power 5 school, and then not only do they lose $1 million, they then drop way down to where they can't compete for a playoff. And so that's kind of the idea here in basketball. Why would a bigger school that Radford's going to go in and beat schedule us?
Yeah,
and it's just going to hurt them as a single A school, or technically double A now, I guess. But
sure.
So yeah, I agree. But I'm excited. I'm all for bettering the New River Valley, bettering Radford high school sports, and everybody knows Radford will take on anybody you want to throw at us, even the girls now, for sure.
Absolutely, we'll take anyone.
Anybody.
Well, let's just recap. I jumped the gun a little bit. Okay, wrestling, big old match this week, Thursday night at the high school. Fort Chiswell, Carroll County, Glenver, all coming into town. Should be a great match. So if you have time, just pop your head in. Let's support the Bobcats on wrestling. We'll be cheering on. Next episode, we'll be having Coach Jenna Ray. Now, Michael, we'll kind of transition to both basketball teams, where we're at, what's gone on, and then we'll have a week looking ahead. But I do want to stop here and ask you one question off the cuff. We kind of talked about, we threw Glenver under the bus there, how we would love to get on the mat and wrestle with them. Looking at the Three Rivers district, who would you say is across the board? I know sports are different, but across the board, maybe we should put a poll out there if this would be okay. Who is Radford's biggest rival in the district across the board? Okay.
Now, I think if you ask different people, you're going to get different answers. So I think no matter who you ask, right. That being said, I've only lived in this town for about 10 years. So from an outsider's perspective, you obviously have Battle of the Bridge.
Yep.
That in every sport, no matter what, especially football, Radford wants to beat Pulaski. Right. But I know one thing coming from, a Radford household, so to speak. There's 2 things: beat Pulaski, and at all costs beat the P out of Floyd County High School. And that's the only 2 things I know. So if I have to pick, I'm going with, you have to go with Pulaski. I think Battle of the Bridge is important, whatever.
Right. That's
right across the way.
Right there.
I think it's the biggest.
Yeah.
But especially
that's the Duke UNC.
Right. That is it. But when you're competing for, and at the time, Floyd was in single A, Radford was in single A, it mattered.
Yeah.
It always mattered. But we still play them every year. And it does matter. Even I'd have to say it's Floyd.
Well, and I think a lot of people would say Floyd, especially the rivalry between Coach Harmon and Coach Cormany has really ignited that thing the last few years. And, you look at girls basketball, that is the biggest game that's coming up on Wednesday night. Hear it at home. Okay, we got a big game circled there. Got to win that game. Is always Floyd. And like you said, yes, my wife, I hate Floyd. And you know what? You go to Floyd and ask them, they hate Radford. I like to just put out there another argument that could be possibly made. And growing up in Radford, I've grown around Radford sports since I was little. Back to the Shane Darris, Terrell Dobbins, Todd Woods, Josh Woods, all those days. I would like to say Glenver could possibly be a contender for the biggest rivalry because, to me, Glenver in every sport is that team that whether they're good or bad, they're always gritty enough and annoying enough to beat you. And you look at the fan base and just the pride. Both schools going at it right now. Like I said, I think you saw my little heat right there talking about them on the wrestling mat. I just personally believe that whether it's baseball, soccer, volleyball, football, basketball, whatever it is, I'm sure swimming probably even gets a little heated. We'll see in wrestling this week. Just seems like Glenver in every sport. There's some sports that Giles just not there with us competing wise. There's Floyd sometimes is up and down in some things too, but I feel like Glenver is always that pesty opponent that loves to beat us, that comes in ready to beat us, and that sometimes we struggle with, and they've become this all-time rival, I believe, in the district.
Yeah, sure. I mean, especially if you look at the last, and again, outside of the last 5 years, on the football field especially, the playoffs have gone through, we got to go to Glenver and play, or they got to come here and play. And
Yep.
So I think those things matter and playoffs matter. It reminds me a lot. Radford High School reminds me of the SEC East, so to speak. As a Tennessee fan, we have rivals. The old guys would say, hey, our biggest rival is Alabama. We play Alabama every single year, and we used to beat them up, and now obviously the tides have turned. And if you ask a young guy
No pun intended.
Yeah,
Roll Tide.
Yeah. If you ask the young guy who our rival is, they would say Florida. And it's just where the tides have changed. And that's kind of similar, in my opinion, to Radford High School. Everybody has to beat everybody. If you ask an old guy who he thinks it is, if you ask a young guy who he thinks it is, it's going to be different. And you see the same guys every sport, and you dislike each other. And it's with respect, of course. And that's kind of what we're talking about. But I think it's awesome. Nothing beats high school sports, in my opinion, except college, of course. But
right,
that's what it's all getting to. So I'm excited, which kind of leads us to, in my opinion, a little bit of this basketball game we had yesterday. And you were kind of telling me about it. I'd love for you to elaborate, but it didn't sound like a lot of people. Bobcats dropped one yesterday. We're up at half. Yep. I believe by 1 or 2.
By 2.
And then they lost by 1. Elijah Kelly hit a buzzer beater at the halftime to go up by 2.
Yep.
And then the Bobcats dropped by 1 the game. But it didn't sound like we had a lot of friends in the arena yesterday.
Yeah, no, Radford did have a shot. We actually had the ball inbound it with 3.8 seconds left and down by 2. We lost by 2, and we missed the shot. And so had a chance to win against a very veteran, experienced, tough, strong Lord Botetourt team. If you continue looking at the Bobcats, were young. Coach Corn, I talked to him that morning after their shoot-around. We came in for practice, and he said they're just old. They're strong. They're gritty. It's going to be tough. We've been rusty. We've been off. Don't get him started about the COVID situation. And that's exactly what I believe happened. But you're right, Michael. If you're listening right now, you know what happened. It happens in the Fort Chiswell tournament all the time. And I love it. It's just like when I tell people, okay, I like Duke. Okay, I'm a Duke fan. And, okay, football, we get pounded. Basketball, it's a different story. Whenever people beat us, even ranked teams beat us, they storm the court. I'm like, that's the greatest compliment you can give a team, that you just beat them. We're going to storm the court because you're the Goliath, and we're not. You're on another level on us. We slipped up to beat you. Same thing with the Bobcats. Fort Chiswell tournament, the place is packed because everyone wants to see Radford lose. I think specifically Cormany lose. And then same thing happened Saturday. The whole entire gym, packed gym, is literally acting like it's a state championship for their team. They don't know who Lord Botetourt is, but they're rooting for them because it's the Bobcats. That's the environment that we faced once again last night. And you throw in some sophomores and juniors getting the biggest punch and then the loudest environment every time. And we still had a chance to win. I don't know why teams are smiling right now because it's early in the season. We've only played 5 games now. I don't know why you're getting excited. Bobcats are back. And by the time February comes around, you ain't going to be smiling anymore.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. We see it a lot in college basketball this season. There's so many teams, a lot of old guys. I mean, there's guys who are 25 years old playing college basketball still with COVID years and everything like that. You see a lot of young guys playing against these old guys. It matters. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now with the Bobcats. They got a lot of young talent nonetheless. But it was like Duke a few years ago. They had so much young talent. They just couldn't put it together.
Right.
Because they've never been there, and that happens. And so these are learning blocks. You know, Nick Saban says it best: "Bring me all the rat poison." Okay, and this is what Coach Cormany's doing. We're feeding the poison to the rats, and that's what he wants: is building them up stronger. And so I would hate no team in the state wants to play Radford High School at any point in the playoffs. So when that time comes, you know, the worst draw you could have is if Radford slips down and is like a 7 seed and you got to go play Radford High School as a 3 seed or something. That would be the worst thing in history. So you're absolutely right. But
absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is. And, you know, you look at here's some of the stat lines, and I would call it the unofficial stat line maybe from the paper, but Landon Clark, 14 points. Gavin Cormany, 14 points. Elijah Kelly, 9. Joseph Mitchell, 4. Okay, and that rounds off the rest of the scoring. Doug Knipe did let us know that Nathan Wesley did have some points, probably close to 10. So those are unofficial stats. Hopefully we'll get some official ones later. But you look at the stat line, Lord Botetourt did a good job of containing Elijah Kelly, only at 9 points. Elijah Kelly's going to be all-state player this year as a sophomore. And, you know, Lord Botetourt got us last night at the Chance Harmon Classic in a tough environment. But boys over Christmas break got shut down. The whole Christmas tournament. Remember, Michael, in the first episode we did this thing, I said the pivotal moment for this year for the boys will be the Christmas tournament where they didn't even get a chance to play in it. And so the boys have only played 4 games, I believe. Rodent Time said 3-2. I'm pretty sure we're 2-2. We beat Pulaski and Northside and lost to East Greenbrier East, and now Lord Botetourt.
Yeah, it looks like we are 2-2 on the year.
Yeah,
and you're right. Beat Pulaski, Roanoke, lost to Greenbrier, and Lord Botetourt. So,
and just look at that schedule. There ain't one opponent that's in the same level as us.
And the 2 losses were a combined 3 points.
Yeah.
So
against bigger schools.
Yep.
So again, I hope some non-Radford fans have tuned in right now to this episode. I just want to let you know, I said at the beginning of the year, the Bobcats are going to slip up and lose some games this year. But I'm telling you right now, you still don't want to play us next month. You don't want to play us this week. So whatever. District, it's time for the district though now, and it's time to go to work. James River is going to be the hard one this year. I'm just going to tell you that right now. James River, if you're listening at home, in the past, when I was playing, we lost to them in the region championship, beat them in the state championship. They were good back then. They've dropped off the map. James River's back, and so if you're at home right now, circle that game. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, and speaking of that game, I mean, it's this week on the 13th is that game. I mean, boys play 2 games in the this week and at James River on the 13th. A lot of basketball. I don't know if you want to dive into what's this week or not, but
yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, let's see here.
Because we haven't played for 3 weeks, so I'm not salty by it or anything.
It doesn't sound like it in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, girls play tomorrow night at Radford High School against, let's see, Christiansburg. So y'all play Christiansburg. Let's break down that a little bit. How's that game going to go, Coach?
Christiansburg, bigger school, as you know, but they're going to come out and play zone against us, which I love. We have shooters, you know, and we're coming off a loss, but at the same time, I think we're coming off the best game that we've played. We lost to Virginia High in the Christmas tournament final. and led the most of the game and lost it in the fourth. They made more shots than us, and we forced 20 turnovers though against them. We put a new defense in that day in shoot around, and we knew Virginia High was going to be tough. It's kind of like Georgia when they lost to Alabama. Wow, Alabama in the SEC championship. You could tell on Coach, what's his face, Smart. What's Georgia's coach's name? Kirby Smart. You could tell on his face that it was like, all right, we got through that one. Now we know what to look at. It's national championship time. Kind of how we were. We were going to win that game, but I told the girls in the locker room, it was a good feeling. We played the best we've ever played as a unit, and we could face Virginia High once again. That blocks us from a state championship. So hopefully we can get them the second time. Anyways, yeah. long answer.
I love the answer. Actually, a lot of coaches will say you learn more. You can learn on a win, and it's actually really good to win those games and learn from it. But some of the best lessons learned is off a loss. I mean, yeah. You see where you're at, and you see what you could have done better. But it's amazing that you forced 20 turnovers. Tennessee, the second best defense in the country this year, is averaging 25 forced turnovers a game. And so to be at 20 forced turnovers, that's pretty impressive. So I love that coming after that. Christiansburg, I'll say what you didn't say because you're the head basketball coach. Y'all gonna whoop Christiansburg tomorrow. So we'll just pencil that as a W now. That's pretty much what you told me. Knock on wood. You're keeping me from a national championship early. So we'll be working. We'll be calling that game tomorrow, by the way. Bobcat Sports Live will be there. But since that's Monday night, who's going to win the national championship real fast before we move into the rest of the week?
I have to go with Bama.
I hate to do it. I got to as well. It's hard to beat a team twice. I've been going back and forth. I haven't placed my bet yet this week on Barstool Sportsbook. But, it's hard to bet against Nick Saban. And so I'm going to have to do if you win or lose with Nick Saban, whatever. But he's the best for the reason, best coach of all time. So, unfortunately. All right. And then there's some swimming going on at Delville YMCA at the Botetourt YMCA. So swim meet. But then the boys basketball team plays Floyd at home. That'd be a big one. I mean, we just talked about rivalries and stuff, and Floyd's coming to town. That place is going to be packed, by the way. I hope the concessions are open. They've been in and out of openness. Can we get the concessions open, by the way?
Well, you know where I'm going to say next, Michael. Why are we splitting these two matchups up Tuesday night and Wednesday night?
Because you're absolutely right, because the girls play at Radford on Wednesday. So you mean to tell me the boys play at Radford on Tuesday and the girls play at Radford on Wednesday against the same opponents? We couldn't have squeezed them into one day?
Yeah, two big opponents for both of those programs.
It's going to be a sellout either way. But you mean to tell me we could have been standing room only for Floyd girls and boys?
I believe so.
I mean, that would have been electric basketball. Yeah. So sign me up for that. So you're right. Girls play Wednesday against Floyd County at home. Boys play Tuesday against Floyd County at home. Then there's some swimming meets on Thursday the 13th. Wrestling match at Radford. That's that quad meet you were telling us about at 6 p.m. And then the boys play at James River. So it's some tough competition this week, whether you cut it or not. We're diving into district play. We're basically in conference play, so to speak. And it's tough right out of the gate. Floyd, James River.
Yep. Yeah, it's time to play now. And Coach Cormany and I both been mourning over our lack of schedule this year so far. Girls have played 5 games, boys have played 4 games already. And we are 5.5 weeks away from the region start. Now let that sink in. 5 weeks from region start, and the boys and the girls combined have played 9 games so far. It's crazy. COVID, weather, other situations that, we just won't talk about right now on here, but we did before the show. We got to get some games in, but so it's good to see the boys have 2 games this week, and then the girls, we have 3. So, and 3 again the next week.
Yeah. In fact, it looks like the boys were supposed to play Friday night at James River. No, excuse me, at against Roanoke Catholic at Rafford, but that game has been rescheduled to February the 9th. But
Might be
the girl,
COVID
but
on their end.
We can't speculate on something like that.
I mean, pretty easy guess right there.
I would say so. And it looks like you all play James River at James River on Friday to end the week off.
Once again, okay, we've got an hour bus trip, hour and 15-minute bus trip. I know because I drive the bus. Okay, hour and 15 minutes. Two days in a row. Fan base having to go an hour in a car to James River. Come on. It's that NFL show. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
We could be doing this more efficiently. I'll use a good term, efficiently, right there.
Yeah, well, it saves money on buses and everything. We're just trying.
The guys and the girls on the same team are the same bus.
We're just trying to save the school money and make them more money.
Absolutely.
Because they would have way more fans come out. Again, I touched on this earlier in our podcast journey, but that's how they did it at our high school. The girls played first, the boys played second. And I'm not saying you always have to do that, but a couple times a year on these big games would be fantastic.
Well, I was talking from some people that teach at Pulaski, and they're asking when we go to Pulaski in a few weeks to play, and they're like, is it a quad day? I'm like, a what? And they're like, girls JV varsity, boys JV varsity. Actually, I think the JV games are squished, then the varsity, and I'm like, makes sense. On a Saturday, make the full day about Rafford and Pulaski.
Absolutely. And in fact, speaking of a Saturday, the boys travel to Pulaski on Saturday. Games 1:00, games 3:00. So the girls could have played Pulaski as well.
Yeah.
On the same day, made it a quad. Well, that's the way the bigger schools do it. And the big schools have a lot of teams and a lot of schedules to get it in. Gym times it's busy. You got a lot going on. So it makes sense. I understand Rafford's a little bit smaller school, so it may not impact, but hey, I would love this. We can harp on this part until we're blue in the face.
I probably will.
Maybe next year we can get some more support behind it, and we can start doing these ourselves. As the coach, can't you just call these schools up and say, hey, this is what we want to do. Let's make it happen.
I can, but it won't go very far. All the other logistical and permissions is beyond my capabilities. So, but other than that, hey, busy week coming up, but that's the latest in Bobcat sports. A lot of things going on in indoor track. We got some swim meets coming up. We got some wrestling, but don't go anywhere this week. Stay in Rafford because Rafford's hosting a lot of good matchups and a lot of competition starting tomorrow night. Rafford girls playing against the Lady Blue Demons from Christiansburg. Looking forward to that matchup. And then the week goes on. We'll be entering Floyd on Tuesday for the boys and the girls on Wednesday. Wrestling on Thursday. And then boys and girls basketball hitting the road again. So a lot to come. And then we'll be right back here next week on Bobcat Sports Talk. Michael Davis, Timothy Worrells, joined with indoor track coach Jenna Ray. Any closing remarks here tonight, Michael?
Not really. I'm just excited to get back to sports. We've had a big break. I love spending time with my family, but I am super excited to get to spend this next coming up week drenched in Bobcat sports. So I can't wait for that.
I agree. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Do us a favor. Go ahead and share this link on your social media pages. Let's blow this thing up and give all the athletes and the sports the credit they are due. But, hey, it's another night. Michael Davis, Timothy Worrells, Bobcat Sports Talk. And as always, it's a great night to be a Bobcat.